Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Every Horror Film, where today we are on Halloween Ends. That's right. We have built it up all the way up until this point. We've reviewed all the other films. We've gone down the list. We've liked, we've disliked, we've hated, we've loved. But now we are here. Halloween Ends. Jeff, we did a reaction, non-spoiler reaction. We went and saw this in theaters. We've seen it a couple more times now on Peacock. We're ready to talk about it. What's going on, man? What are you thinking?
Man, I've been biting my tongue for a long time on this one. That initial reaction, I think, perfectly summed up our thoughts straight out of the theater. After that, we took the weekend to watch it a couple times. I watched it two more times on Peacock over the weekend, Friday night and Sunday night, I think, or maybe it was yesterday. I don't even remember. But I've now seen this movie a total of 3 times. I think the majority audience has seen it. It's time to get into it. It's time to talk about it. It's time to talk about our concrete feelings about this movie, because I think that we're at a point where we know how we feel about this.
Yeah. So in my initial spoiler-free reaction, I very much enjoyed this movie. I really thought it was different. Definitely is different. It's an interesting take on the character of Michael Myers, the character of Laurie Strode, the character of Haddonfield and Allison and everybody in general, and this new Corey character that comes into the movie. So I did watch this for a second time. Saying that, I have to say that I still do really enjoy this film. It's very fun. It's different. Is it the best film in the franchise? No, it's not. Is it the worst that people are saying? Listen, it's your opinion, but I disagree. There's no way this is worse than Halloween Resurrection. I enjoyed this movie. I had a lot of fun with it. I was there were some points, things that happened in the movie theater that I saw. I freaked out. I couldn't believe I was seeing it with my own 2 eyes. And for the most part, I like what they tried to do here. I think this is a nice cap off to a trilogy, albeit very different from what people were expecting. I still really enjoyed this.
Yeah, there's a lot of negative press about this movie, man. There's a lot of negative reviews. Every review I see is pretty negative, even from some dedicated Halloween fans, man. It's overwhelmingly negative. And that's something that we said was going to happen. Right off the bat. This movie is the most divisive, and you're gonna love it or you're gonna hate it. Right off the bat, I was confused is the best word I felt about it, because I was very certain about what we were gonna get, and I was very convinced that what we were gonna get is what we were gonna get. What I did not expect was everything they gave us instead. So it caught me completely blindsided. And like I said, with Halloween Kills, when I left that theater, I knew that was a bad movie. I mean, there's no arguing that. When I left this theater, I had no idea if this was a good or a bad movie. I was so confused. My heart was telling me to hate it, and my brain was telling me to love it, and my gut was telling me that it was just average. So I just had no idea which way to go. I kept my mouth shut, went home, and I watched it again. I could finally say with certainty, hey, this is a good movie. Man, this is a good Halloween movie. Now, is it the best? No. Is it in top 5? Maybe tied for 5th. But, I can say with certainty that it's better than Kills, but it's not better than 2018. So, man, let's just jump off the deep end. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, man. What did you think about that plot line? Because that plot line is not what we were counting on.
I will say this. I'm going to toot my own horn here for a second. If you watched our predictions and previews video, I'm willing to say I got 2 things right. One, I said that Corey was going to be a bigger part of this movie than people were willing to anticipate or maybe accept. I think I got that right. Second, even though I am not as mad as other people are, This is a version of Michael Myers that most people do not like. I said that we were going to get that. And that's what happened for in most people's cases. That's what they thought. So regarding Corey's character, I think it's fine. I really had fun. I think Rowan Campbell, who's the actor, I think he did a really good job. I like the story that they made. Obviously him, the accidental death of the kid he was babysitting. I mean, wait, I feel bad for saying this, but it's a movie, so who cares? When that kid fell off all those flights of stairs and landed, I was like, "Oh my god, that was hilarious."
Dude, he got some hang time, man. I'm not even gonna lie.
Dude,
the kid bounced.
That kid was in the air for like 10 minutes, and then he just like, and then he's dead. It really caught. As soon as like, if you watch the movie, if you've seen it, obviously this is a spoiler review.
Okay, you've seen the movie if you're watching us talk
yes.
about it. All right. And if not, get off this.
As soon as they did the whole, he gets locked in there and he's like kicking the door and the kid's on the banister, like I was like, oh, I know exactly what's going to happen here. And it happened.
Yeah, man. A super strong intro. Very good introduction. It kind of caught you off guard a little bit. You're like, who are these people? And why is it 2019? Because the last two movies were 2018. So catch you a little bit by surprise there. Set up Corey really well. It's a good intro. Very sad. Very, very glad we got a cameo from a certain John Carpenter movie. I'm very happy to see that they brought The Thing back as the movie that the babysitter was watching from the original. They were watching The Thing too in the original. So happy about that, of course. Rowan Campbell set up a really good character introduction. You feel bad for this kid right away. And the opening credit sequence, man, I gotta say this, it kind of gave me chills a little bit when I watched the opening credit sequence. You know, the Halloween movies are known for their opening scroll with the jack-o'-lantern doing whatever the jack-o'-lantern's doing. Right away when I was watching this, I was like, the score, the opening title, very clean, very crisp, very mature step up from maybe the synths and the organs that we're used to. We got a full piano orchestra, very, very emotional, very modern, and you get the jack-o'-lanterns growing through each other and getting different faces. Lo and behold, that ends up being the plot of the movie, the different faces. So right there, I was kind of able to piece together, okay, 2018's opening scroll, you had the pumpkin coming back to life, you had something returning, you know, Halloween Kills, you had multiple flaming pumpkins all moving in secrecy. You know, that's the plot of the movie. Yeah. The plot of the movie here is, of course, revealed in the pumpkins again, with the evil taking different shapes.
Yeah, and something I pointed out to you immediately when the opening credits jumped up, which I knew you probably wouldn't get because you only seen Season of the Witch one time. That font they use, it is Halloween 3. I knew it. I said as soon as I saw it, I said, oh, that's Halloween 3 font. And that's great because this is the third film in this trilogy. Halloween 3 was the third film in the Halloween original timeline. So that's a cool little nod. And it's very foreshadowing because like Halloween 3 was a very different movie. This is a very different movie. Obviously, it does have Michael Myers in it, but it is a very different movie than from things that you've been taught to know from the Halloween franchise.
Yeah, so the 2018 one famously has the original font from the original 1978 film. Halloween Kills has the same font and style as Halloween 2. If you look at the E's, you can tell that they're the same. And of course, this one has the same font as number 3, Season of the Witch. Now, I think this has double meaning. I think it's because it's the third one, but also because it's the most different and therefore the most critically panned. I think I know what they were getting at. I'm gonna throw this out here right now. If I could have one slogan about my reaction to this movie and all the stunts they pulled in this movie and all the cinematic tricks they did and whatnot, story-wise too, I'm gonna phrase it like this. I get it. Okay? I get it. Everything you did, I got it. It was not lost on me. It did not go over my head. The Season of the Witch font, I get it. Not lost on me. The jack-o'-lanterns changing face, I get it. It was not lost on me. There's a lot of things they do in this movie that, as a diehard Halloween fan, someone who's seen all the movies, I get it, man. Like if you've proven one thing with this trilogy, David Gordon Green, it's that you did your homework. That's for sure.
Yes, there are so many callbacks and throwbacks and in all of these, all the films in this trilogy, especially this one as well. So I'm not going to say we're going to do a scene by scene breakdown because I think,
There's more to talk about here than
there's
the script.
correct. There's more to talk about. So, we'll keep talking about the core character. One of the main complaints and something I want to do in this review is, I'm not going to say I'm going to defend this movie, but I want to poke fun at people that don't like this movie because it's very different.
Thank you.
Because
that's what I want to do.
Because listen, I love Reddit. It's a great website. I go on it daily. I go on the Halloween movies subreddit all the time. And there were there were people that were very, very angry about this movie. I made a couple posts and comments. People were saying that I was wrong. They couldn't take me seriously as a fan because I like this movie. I said this movie had stories and characters in it that I were a little bit more developed. They said I didn't know what I was talking about. I had someone say that we should get refunds for false advertising of this movie.
Oh my God.
And I've seen people say that they are no longer Halloween fans. I mean, it's been nuts. It's been hilarious.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't go on Reddit like that, but in the Instagram comments on Instagram, I was really like digging into some of these fan pages and some of these comment threads, and across the board, like it's basically people just saying like, this movie sucks. This wasn't even a Halloween movie. Dude, two different people on two different days I saw say the same joke. They said, I wanted a Michael Myers movie, not Romeo and Juliet. And on both of those people's pages, I said the same thing. I said, I'm going to take a fat guess and say that you've never read Romeo and Juliet. Because if you put that into words here, you're just watching for surface level. The main complaints that I'm seeing from everybody, they're valid complaints, but people just won't stop getting hung up on them. Like they're big complaints, like they're big gripes. But dude, this movie has so much more than that. Like I get it. Like with like Star Wars The Last Jedi, when you're complaining that there's no lightsaber duel or that Luke was pessimistic or whatever the gripes are with that movie. And there was nothing else because there was nothing else offered in that movie. But this movie, there's so much more given to you than what was taken away from you. And you're just looking past that and honing in on the negative. And you just so eagerly want to say, what does franchise die? Oh, this franchise needs to end now. 40 years too long. Blah, 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 blah. Shut up, man. Just shut up.
Yeah, listen, most people that hate this movie, their number one complaint is there's not enough Michael Myers, or they don't like the way Michael Myers was treated in this movie. Okay. First off, I've seen a lot of timestamps and things like that going on in previous movies that if you line up the amount that Michael was in this film versus some of the other films in the franchise, it's very similar. About 10 total minutes of Michael in all the films.
In 1978, he was barely in it.
Yeah, there's a lot of movies where he's in the same as this film. People say Michael was done dirty. They pimped him out. I can't believe they did that to my boy Michael. They're not looking at the context of the story. I don't
exactly.
It's easy. Listen, when I saw Michael get shoved around and they took his mask off, my face almost hit the fucking floor. I could not believe what I was seeing. I get it. Michael Myers is this character that he's not supposed to be shown in a negative way because he is evil. No one can defeat him. He is the end all be all. No one can take down Michael Myers. He can be stopped for a short amount of time, but he will always come back.
Right.
Like I said, and like you said, and everyone should know with a brain, this is this trilogy's version of this. This is not the definitive Michael Myers. Yes, this is how we know him forever. There's never going to be another movie. This is Michael Myers as he's forever going to be remembered. That is not the case. And people just cannot get past that. And secondly, to add to that, there are what, 12 other Halloween movies? 11 of them have Michael Myers doing almost the same thing in every single movie, where he essentially comes out on top,
Yeah.
where he does not die. And the last movie we just got in Kills, he won that movie.
Yeah.
He won. He won. He took out everybody and he won.
Yeah. Yeah. When I saw Michael Myers frail and shaking and weak and getting overpowered by this 20-something-year-old and getting knocked to the floor and getting his mask stolen, dude, that broke my heart. I felt so sad watching that. I was like, no, like leave him alone. Like, like I hated seeing like my child icon, like an icon from my childhood, like getting bullied basically. I hated seeing that. Like I've seen him getting beat with wooden hockey sticks for some reason and getting bullets fired, and none of that ever affected me like the way I saw him getting, getting picked on like an old man in this movie. That was sad. And like I said, I get why people are hung up on that. But you're just taking that, like you only watched a compilation of Michael Myers scenes and saw that and got angry. And you're not thinking about the context in which it's happening. Like, dude, he's been living in the sewer for 4 years. He hasn't been on a rampage. And we said in the last movie, every time he kills somebody, he transcends to the next level of evil, right? Is he supernatural or is he not? Yada, yada. He hasn't been on a rampage. He's been hiding in a sewer, finding a meal to survive, and he's 65. And it's just, you take it out of context so bad because the context, this story is so good. And that is exactly how he needed to be. If you were going to tell me that he was going to come out of a sewer 4 years later after living on rats and homeless people and just pop out and just start whooping ass like he did in Halloween Kills, I think that was like a cheap move, like a cop out, like you got to think about some kind of progression. And people piss me off, man. Let's just put it that way.
People were upset because David Gordon Green said, I'm not really going to explain what Michael's been doing for 4 years. Okay. People were upset about that because they're like, well, we want to know what he's been up to. Like, you can't just have him just show up, which is correct. You can't just have him show up. So they make it in a way that is, I won't say it's believable, even though to me it is, but to me, it's like, okay, we've seen Michael in all these other films, and he is essentially almost the same thing in every movie he's in. Is it not cool and different to see like a different side of the character? Like they didn't have him speak and like go on this like completely different character arc. Like it's cool to see an old Michael like kind of like like you just sit back and think, I wonder what it's like Michael Myers, like he just was like not all the way there, like he was old and like he couldn't get the job done anymore. Like you get to see a different angle of that character and it's interesting. Like seeing him like get shoved around, like I understand why people are like it's degrading to the character. I get it. But to see him like in this state where like he can barely even like survive and he's this old guy and he doesn't have it like he used to, like it's a cool an interesting way to view the character that has not been done ever.
Yeah, it's never been done. And it storytelling wise, visually, it tells you two things. It tells you that Michael's past his prime and his reign of terror is coming to an end. And it tells you that this new guy, Corey Cunningham, is a legitimate threat. I mean, would you be scared of someone who couldn't overpower Michael Myers? No, you wouldn't, because Michael Myers is out there. So, establishing this new guy in the depth that he's established, like that is exactly what it was for. And, it couldn't have done it any different. And look, there's a lot of things that you can complain about with the depiction of Michael Myers, but I'll tell you what, there has not been a character in cinema multimedia history as difficult to write for as Michael Myers. And to have him get written for not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 4 times in a continuous story after it's already been done 9 other times. I mean, dude, the writers in this movie, give them a Nobel Peace Prize because they did the impossible. They wrote for a character who has no concrete backstory, no concrete personality, no concrete emotions, absolutely zero dialogue, and absolutely, without a doubt, no motivation. So you're basically writing for a wild raccoon is what you're doing. And try to make 4 movies worth of plot about that. You can't do it. So I have to give the writers credit. Yeah, I might have wanted to see some motivation or some secret reveal. And as I said, I really wanted to hear him speak. I really did. So yeah, it's disappointing that I didn't get those things. But the best part about Michael Myers is the fact that it's all a mystery. And you get to theorize, you get to think about it with your friends and with your family after the credits roll and the TV shuts off. Like, you're still thinking about him and you're coming up with these ideas. It's fun to think about. And if you give me a concrete answer, you take away my ability to think about him. So yeah, as much as I would have loved to have seen some concrete things, like he's concretely supernatural or not, he speaks or doesn't, what his motivation is. As much as I would have loved to have seen that, what they did with Michael in this movie is the only interesting thing they could have done at this point. And I give them props for that. And yeah, it was heartbreaking, but you know what? Sometimes we need a reality check and we need a cold, swift kick in the ass.
Exactly.
And we're not going to take it well, obviously, but you got to think about why we're getting it.
Yeah. And like I said, I get it. I agree with what you said. Would I like to see more scenes of Michael going on a rampage? Like, yeah, like we all enjoy that. That's fun. Like, that's a lot of the reason we enjoy these movies. We want to see Michael do his thing, and it's fun to us. We like it. But at the same time, you have to give the guys credit to the writers to go in a direction that is believable, but they don't do a disservice to the character. And it's like, he's fighting Busta Rhymes. I get he's getting beat up by a 21-year-old kid, but the way the story is written and the way it goes, it makes it a little bit more understandable. It's not just Busta Rhymes shows up in the sewer and kung fu's Michael Myers in the nuts, and then he walks.
That would have been great. That would have been great, honestly.
There at least is a story and a reason as to why that happens. And to me, listen, Michael Myers is a mortal character. In a couple months, people are going to forget all about this and how much they hated it and move on with their lives and just remember all the other million movies where he's in there killing people. Okay. And to me, the way they wrote this story and they wrote this character is different in a way we've never seen it before. And I enjoyed it. Is it the best? No, but it's different and it's fun. And I'm glad that they took and did something different. And to me, it worked out pretty well. It is shocking to see, but it's good. I like it.
Yeah, this movie takes you out of your comfort zone as a Halloween fan. It really, really does. And people need to recognize that that's all it is. Like, and here's the thing too. Like, there's the gripe that focusing so much on this copycat killer. Like I said in my predictions video, that's a fantastic story for a Halloween movie. Like, cut and dry, like, that's a great story. I want to see that. But is it the trilogy ending finale that we expected? No. And that's my biggest hang up about this movie too. Is that they took this amazing storyline and they used it to be the finale to a trilogy that we already kind of had established. Yeah, that's my biggest complaint about this. I kind of wanted a more grand cinematic finale, but I got to put that out of my head, man. Not every end of a trilogy is going to be Avengers Endgame. Not every end of a trilogy is going to be some major event film, right? So I gotta get past that, and that's what a lot of people aren't getting past. The story of a copycat killer is so good and so original to the Halloween franchise. Um, I'll tell you this. I was thinking about this today. This whole film, if you subtract Michael, Laurie, Allison, everything from 2018 and Kills, take that out of there, and you made this a spin-off movie where it took place in the 4 years between Kills and Ends about these new characters, Corey and the bullies and yada yada yada, and you made this a really spin-off, standalone, tight-knit, like small budget spin-off movie like Rogue One was to Star Wars, where it takes place between movies, people would be ranting and raving about this movie. They would say, it's the best thing. Why can't Halloween Ends just do this? Because it is such a good movie on its own. People just won't shut up about what they think Michael should be doing. And this is a good movie on its own. And yeah, I agree. Like, I would have wanted a little more focus on Laurie and Michael with the finale. But at this point, I'll take something this good over another Halloween Kills or just some big mashup of kills. Like, hey, this is a good movie, man. And if you don't admit that, you're wrong.
Yeah, and people were saying that they were like, "Oh, we were wrong about you, Halloween Kills. We actually like you." I'm like, "Oh, really? Really? Just because there's more kills of Michael Myers, that's it."
Dude, the people who loved Halloween Kills right off the bat hate this movie right off the bat. The people who hate Halloween Kills right off the bat, I feel like, are more likely to like this one. You know, I feel like there's those two sides of the coin when it comes to Halloween fans. The ones who just like the gore fest kills, and the ones who like the lore and the characters and the storyline. So, you know, I I don't get it, man. What, it can't just be the gripes about Michael that people are getting hung up on. What is it that's not sitting well with fans with this movie?
That's it. That really is it. It's that, and the fact that the whole movie isn't centered around Laurie and Michael's showdown. Because, okay, I understand that. Maybe I agree. I think this would have worked out better as a sequel than a final trilogy film. I think if you had Halloween 2018, you could kind of mix in some stuff from Kills in there. You had this movie, and you kind of took some parts of it, and then had your final send off with Michael and Laurie. That's fine. I could see where people bring that point up, but did we need another Michael versus Laurie film for an hour and a half, hour 45 minutes? We've had that. That is essentially Halloween, the original, for at least the final quarter of the movie. That's pretty much most of Halloween 2, the original. That is pretty much most of Halloween H2O. And for a good portion of Halloween 2018, we get another battle between them. So we've seen them go at it. How many more times? What did you want them to do for an hour 45 minutes?
Yeah, there's no new ground to tread there. If they did it again, people would just complain that's the same thing over and over again. They wouldn't complain that it was anything different. They would complain like, oh, you're just gonna fight for an hour. No, dude, like, you can't make a whole story about a character that has no dialogue, no emotions, no motivations, and no backstory. Try making one movie, let alone a whole trilogy. So no, the story that they went with, it was ballsy and it was unique, and I liked it a lot. It was a cool story, really, really fleshed out and very well developed. You know, I feel like if you look at this trilogy, I feel like 2018 was like a love letter to John Carpenter's era.
Right.
I feel like Halloween Kills was a love letter to Rob Zombie's era. And I feel like this one was finally David Gordon Green, like, stretching his wings and like coming into his own and saying, this is the movie that I want to make. This is the story that I want to tell. Right. And that's why it's so unique. And it's the most unique out of the four that we got. It's the most standalone. And I just, you know, it's a good story with good characters and good development. And there's a lot. The word that I can describe this movie with the best, the one word, I don't want to say it's cool or scary or anything. The adjective that I use to describe this word is smart. This is a very smart Halloween movie. I said before, slasher movies aren't thinking man films. but this is pretty close to it. This is a smart movie, man. Everything that they established in the beginning of the movie comes back at the end. And the plays that they make, the subtleties, the background shots, if you look real closely, you can see, foreshadowing. Everything they do, man. This is a very smart movie, and it's written well. Other than the Michael gripes, I noticed that the editing was a little off. There was some scenes where dialogue didn't match up with the mouths, and
Yeah.
pacing was a little different. But other than that, I mean, would you agree about the story? I mean, was this a smart story?
This is the best written film out of the whole trilogy, in my opinion.
Right.
This is the least cringy dialogue you're gonna get, because I don't care how much you love Halloween Kills, and I understand that I even for a second enjoyed Halloween Kills, but you cannot deny that the dialogue in that film, whether it be intentional or not intentional, is pretty damn bad.
30 years ago.
So you don't get the bad dialogue. You don't get the bad humor. I mean, there's a spot here and there they try to throw some stuff in there, but it's not over the top. It's not in your face.
Right.
It's a solid written movie, and to me, this gets the most character development out of all the characters. For the most part, I mean, in Kills, there was no development from anybody other than Michael, which I wouldn't even say he got developed. He just killed more people than normal.
He just won.
He won. 2018, you're not, you're kind of spending a lot of the movie catching up to the characters from 40 years ago. So you're spending that time kind of getting to re-know them and see what they're doing now. They're not really developing like their selves. This film, you've seen them kind of full-fledged developed. And to piggyback off that, in my opinion, I might get flamed for this. This version of Laurie Strode is my favorite in the whole franchise.
Really?
The best. This movie, she's not Laurie Strode. She's Jamie Lee Curtis. And I like that. She's not doing the whole, in the first film, I get it. It's 1978. She's doing, she's the final girl. She's a scream queen. It's the first time that's ever really happened. So, it's fine. Halloween 2, she does an okay job, doesn't do a lot. She's in the hospital for most of the scene. I think in H2O, she does a fantastic job. Resurrection, she's in for 5 minutes where she gets killed off. 2018, I like her character. I think it is, just a little bit of a stretch to have her that crazy about something that happened that long ago, but I get it. In Kills, she just goes on monologues and stuff. But in this movie, dude, she is perfect. She's like, you know what? I don't give a fuck. Like, I'm just going to live my life and I don't really care what happens. And if I'm going to write this book and I'm going to try to help people, and you can either get on or get out, and I don't really care. And she just like is a cool character I like in this movie. I enjoy watching her in this movie. She does a good job.
Yeah, that's a good point, man. It's a very good for you, Laurie. That's it. You do it. You earn this. You make that pie on fire in the stove. You do that,
Correct.
man.
Do it.
You earn that lifestyle for yourself. You're right. This is a very good Laurie story. Laurie's at the finish line. She made it past her demons. That's very good. Allison is not. I would say that Allison probably got the short end of the stick here when it comes to character arcs here. She's kind of more of like the MacGuffin of the story, where the characters play catch like hot potato with whose side she's on. Allison doesn't really have much development here, but I like her, man. I like her acting. I like her character. I think it's very real. I don't think it's over dramatic. I think she's believable. Andy Manischek has done a fantastic job with this character, and I'd like to see the continuation of the story with her. I'd like to follow her a little bit more. We talked about Michael. Let's talk about the big boy. Let's talk about Corey Cunningham, man. Tell me about Corey Cunningham. Like him, hate him, good, bad. Did they mess with him? What do you think?
Real quick, before I say about Corey, I want to say that I did also enjoy Allison in this movie. To me, this is my favorite performance she does in the whole trilogy. In 2018, I thought she was solid. Kills,
Kind of annoying.
yeah, it was. I don't think it was her fault. I think it was just the writer's dialogue and the direction they took her in.
It was a situation. Yeah.
In this movie, I thought she was kick ass. I
Yeah.
loved her character arc. I think it's believable that she would be this kind of way after, you know, all her parents have died, her friends are died. You know, she's doing good, but you know, she's still, you know, she's having trouble in a lot of other areas. And to me, she has a nice little arc in this film. I enjoyed it, and I would like to see her, you know, carry on throughout the series if they somehow stitch Michael back together. however they do that, if they want to. But I thought she did a really good job in this film, and I like her in this movie. I do. So going on to Corey, I thought the character was really fun. I liked it. I thought that, man, I know I mentioned Christine before. I can't remember if you said you've seen it or it's been a long time.
I didn't remember until I watched this movie, and I finally was like, oh, that's what they meant by this movie's very Christine.
Dude, go back. Yeah, go back like in the next couple months and watch Christine and be like, holy shit, like that is like Christine's child. Like this is very much like this movie, which I really like. Christine, it's another great John Carpenter movie. I like his character, and he has the same last name as the main character in Christine. It's Arnie Cunningham was the guy that had the car. Corey Cunningham being the guy, you know. So I think his character is fun. I think it's, a lot of people said, how dare you introduce a third character or a new character in the trilogy? I'm like, okay, like what did you? I mean, I could see your point, but you know, for me in the hour and a half he's in the movie, they do a really good job of building a little arc for him in the short amount of time that doesn't feel rushed. People say, oh, why did he kill himself at the end? It's ridiculous. You know, we'll get into that. But for the most part, I did enjoy his character. I think the actor did a phenomenal job. I like the angle they were going. They took the copycat killer route, but it didn't feel redundant where we've seen it before. You know, we have seen it before, but I felt it was done in a way that made it a little bit more believable and something I could get behind. Like even some of the kills where he is Michael, you know, part of me is like, damn, I wish that was Michael. But the other half is like, dude, I'm kind of on board with this. Like, this is fun.
Yeah, they sold me on it. They sold me on Corey Cunningham becoming the new Michael Myers. Like, even down to his name, like Michael Myers is a scary name, like Corey Cunningham. Like, I could see that being a killer behind a mask, you know? Yes. You know, they sold me on it. He did a great job. Very believable character arc here. My favorite thing about he was very fun to watch, honestly. A lot of people say like his acting's not that good or what is it? I think he was in like the new reboot of the Hardy Boys or something like that and nothing else. People don't really want to give him credit. They talk about his acting and whatnot. I think he did a great job, man. I was sold on it. I was very interested to see what he had next to say. I'll tell you what, my favorite part of this whole plot and the whole Corey Cunningham taking over the mantle of Michael Myers, like people aren't looking below the surface. And here's what I'm talking about. So think to the scene where Corey's in the sewer and we encounter Michael for the first time. Michael grabs his throat and they look into each other's eyes, and you get the flashback sequence of all the bad things that have happened to Corey and flashes of the mask, and Corey escapes and becomes evil. People are getting hung up on the idea that was a concrete yes to the supernatural route of Michael literally transferring his evil energy into Corey's eyes. That's not what that flashback sequence was about. That flashback sequence was from Corey's perspective, where he was looking into the eyes of evil. He was looking into the abyss, and the abyss was looking back, as she said. And he was remembering all the bad that's happened to him, and he snaps. So what they did in this story is they pulled off two tricks with Corey. One, they built up such a believable backstory and tragedy behind Corey and set up real well the town treating him like shit and him getting bullied by his family, by geeky band kids, by a radio DJ, by everybody, man. It's such a good believable backstory that he was getting picked on by everybody, that he finally snapped and wanted revenge on all these kids that were picking on him in a very human and believable way. They could have easily just been like, oh, Michael Myers transferred his evil energy and Corey went on a rampage. No, man, they blurred the lines between supernatural and human with Corey, and they didn't confirm one way or another that he was evil supernaturally or he was just out for revenge. Those lines were blurred the same way they're blurred with Michael. So that air of mystery has now transferred onto this new character in exactly the same way it's been on this other character for 40 years. So dude, they pulled that off, man. And yeah, they probably could have spent an extra 25 minutes developing that and maybe like hash it out a little bit more. Maybe some parts feel rushed. But dude, like I said, I got it. That wasn't lost on me, man. The question of is he supernatural or is he just a guy applied to Corey? And that was so smart. I don't know why people don't get that.
Yeah, and I agree. And I think, that scene, where he grabs him and he's looking at him. By the way, to me, that's a scary ass scene. I love that. That's good. I think what you said is correct. And they even do it in a way where I could see where people could see that, maybe it's the supernatural he transferred.
You'd believe it one way or another because it's so equal.
So, you could, and I think that's good filmmaking because it leaves up to interpretation. You could go this route or you can go that route, whatever you want to do. So yeah, I agree. I think they did a really good job. And I caught it the first time, like, after he does that and he's kind of like in the sewer and like the screen's kind of like moving around. It's kind of like he's been drugged in a way. It's weird. He's going through this like transformation and then he comes out of the sewer and then the homeless guy is like, he's like, how come he let you live? And something like that. And I can't really understand what he's saying because he's saying something like, Michael Myers is in there. How come he let you live? And then he kills the guy and he just kind of like loses it. He's like, fuck, I just killed that guy. Like, and then that starts the whole, the whole thing. So I think they did a really nice job with that. And then, to kind of get a little bit more into the story. So at this point, Corey's turning into this bad guy. And he meets Allison and, they kind of start having this little relationship. Allison's very into him. And we see that she's had problems, having relationships after her other boyfriend died, Cameron. She's been with this cop guy who's just like way older than her. He's weird. And she's kind of dating this new young guy. And she doesn't really know that. I don't think she knows that. Well, no, she does know what happened to him, but she sees a different side of him. She's not like, oh, that's the kid killer, I'm going to try to fix him. Like, no, she just sees him as him. Right. And, they do a nice job of getting together, and it's believable. And then I love Laurie's character, man. She just, in this movie, she is, she's trying to help Allison out. She's trying to move on. And then, she sees Corey getting bullied by those kids, which, by the way, I've been to high school before. I have never seen a group of band kids that dude, you could have told me those kids were the jocks and I would have believed it. But the band kids, like, they're brutal, man. They're ruthless. And is that how band kids are in school?
That's you know what? I've been out of school for a long time, but if that's how band kids are now, bye-bye. I'm out of here. I got nowhere to go.
I mean, he was like, hey, we're in the band. I'm like, dude, you could have just said you were football players or something. It would have went over way better. But band, I mean, you thinking like geeky band kids? Like, no, these kids were menaces to society.
What, you guys need your beer for your marching band? Like, were you guys like, how fresh out of the locker are you? Like, you just got shoved in a locker and now you're picking on this 20-something-year-old at a gas station, man. Like, no, I don't believe you.
Yeah, that was a little funny to me. So, Laurie ends up saving them, and they kind of, slash their tires, and then she takes them to the hospital to get looked at. That's when him and Allison meet, and they kind of start, having a little thing together. So I really enjoyed them getting together. And then the whole scene where they're at the party and they're dancing, I'm like, holy shit, dude, this is not a Halloween movie. I feel like I'm on drugs watching this in the theater right now. Like the music is like we're at this rave and there's all these lights and they're dancing and it's crazy and all these shots. Like it was really fun. I enjoyed it. Like I could see why people were like, this isn't a Halloween movie, but I didn't give a shit, dude. I like this. I like the way that they took this.
Yeah, man, this is a very different movie. This is a very standalone movie. You could have removed the Laurie, the Allison, and the Michael aspect and the Haddonfield aspect out of it entirely, and had your own B movie. Like you could have made this something else, and that's what a lot of people just don't like about it, is that it just doesn't feel like it fits. And I get that. I do get it. But it doesn't fit the mold of the last two that we saw, and that was intentional. That wasn't an accident. That wasn't an oversight. Like, these characters have matured. The town has matured. The audience watching these movies has matured, man. Like, we want something different. We want something smarter. The main complaint about Halloween Kills is that it was just dumb action. Like, we want something to think about, and that's what we finally get. So obviously Corey, he snaps. He starts killing people who've been picking on him. We're not really gonna go play by play, because there's a lot of things to talk about here. One thing I want to talk about was the radio tower. The radio tower was foreshadowed by David Gordon Green as having a very big role in the finale. Do you know the original plan for the radio tower now that it's been out?
I do not actually. No.
Okay. So the original plan for the radio tower, and why they changed this, I don't know, but I kind of do know, actually. So the original plan. So in case you missed it, David Gordon Green said, like, at the beginning of Halloween Kills, like, the radio tower that you see in the background is going to play a big role in the third movie. All right, whatever. What are your theories? Is it going to be a final battle? Yada yada yada. So apparently, the original plan for this movie is that Michael dies in the first act. Michael gets killed in the beginning of the movie, and the rest of the movie follows this new guy, Corey Cunningham. That was the original plan. And the radio tower plays a big role in that, because Laurie Strode comes in the radio booth. She gets on the tower, and she finally announces to Haddonfield her very emotional speech about how the boogeyman is dead. That was the plan. That's why the radio tower was going to be what it was. Michael was going to die in the opening act. Laurie was going to be like, you can rest now, Haddonfield. The boogeyman's dead. Something like that. And the story would have moved on with just Corey. Now, you could tell by the negative reviews right now that it's very obvious why they didn't do that, because the showdown with Michael and Laurie is what fans came for. So you can't just kill him off in the first act. So they changed it around a little bit. They made Michael be this catalyst in the background so that they could have the showdown at the end. I get it. So the radio tower in this movie didn't really play that big a role. That was foreshadowed. They tried to make it something where they were like sitting on the roof of the radio booth, and they were like, oh, I kind of just want to climb up there and see what it would be like to be up that high, or something like that, or whatever, and that was like their meeting spot for running away together, and it burned down. They tried to shoehorn something else in there because their original plan didn't work out, but the radio tower kind of just never came to fruition. I was a little disappointed about that. Were you expecting more with the radio tower, the way it was hyped up?
I had a feeling, which with a lot of things in this movie, they had shown audiences and they didn't like it, and then they went and reshot and they did different things. You can definitely tell. I was a little disappointed by that. I'm glad they didn't go the route of Michael's being controlled by these like radio signals or anything like that.
Yeah.
But it is weird that they kind of built it up in Kills where they mention it, and then in the commentary they mention it, and for it to not really, have a really significant meaning is a little weird, but it doesn't take away, that much from the movie for me. But I do get that it is a little strange that they kind of built it up and then nothing really happens regarding that.
Yeah, and that original plan with Michael dying in the beginning of the movie being about Corey Cunningham, you can tell that they left a majority of the movie intact with that plan by the way that Laurie is just living her life. She's just a retired mom at home making pies and writing a book. Like, she's at peace. She's not worried, because a lot of people were complaining. A lot of the general audience is like, well, how come she lived 40 years in a doomsday bunker And then when he's actually confirmed to still be out there, she's just making pies. Okay, I get it. But the original plan was that he was going to be dead by that point. So they left a lot of that in there to show some development. Jamie Lee Curtis was like, yeah, Lori got some help in between movies because it's been 4 years.
Yeah.
People are like, yeah, but her daughter Karen was murdered in the last movie. And it seems like she doesn't even care after 4 years. Hey, look. Look, dude, you can't pick some parts of the movie to digest and dissect and ignore the rest of it, right? Like, accept the fact that Lori has gotten help and she's living with her trauma and she's trying to make a life for herself before she dies of old age. Just accept that, because that's not the most important part of the movie. I promise you.
Yeah, I agree. There is a couple things that like that are a little off. Like, oh, like she was messed up for 40 years and all of a sudden he escapes and she's like okay with it. So I can see why people were upset about that, but there's also the way of thinking about it like, what, she just had another encounter. She's like, I got this grandkid, daughter's gone. Maybe she's like, I got to do something. Like, I have to change. Like, I have to try to change. Maybe she had some sort of, because Karen's dead. She's like, I can't just let Allison like go by the wayside. Like,
Right.
maybe that like kind of triggered her to be like, I have to get out of this. I have to, something like that. So, and I'm okay with that because I like her character in this movie. Something else I want to talk about. Let's talk about the kills in this movie.
Talk about the kills, dog.
All right, listen. I had saw that some people had said this movie was gorier than Halloween Kills. I will not say it's gorier than Halloween Kills, but I will say this. There are 2 kills in this movie that are probably my favorite in maybe the whole franchise.
Mm-hmm. I know exactly which ones they are, but you
tell me about them. Listen. The radio tower may have not played a big part in terms of the story like we thought it would, but the kill that goes on in that radio station, oh my God, dude. When Corey walks in there and he's got the Michael Myers mask on and he's doing his thing and he's beating up against it, you see the Willie the Kid's face, which he deserved it because he was a complete douche to him and Allison earlier in the movie. And I'm like, dude, he just got his face beaten. And then you just see Corey pull out these scissors and just slice off his tongue. And it goes on the turntable and it's like hitting the
flopping around.
Dude, oh my God. That was so like gruesome, but funny, but cool. And it's like flipping around every time it goes. I love that kill. Every time I see that, I love it. That was so like, it gave you a little bit of everything. It was gruesome, it was funny, but it was creative at the same time. It was everything in one. I loved it.
Yeah, that if you showed that kill to John Carpenter 40 years ago, he'd say, dude, you guys just don't care now, huh? You guys just show us anything. So yeah, man, that was a good kill. Hey, I'll tell you what, you use practical effects over CGI in a situation where you could have easily used CGI, you win points in my book any day. At this point, it takes balls to use practical effects like that and makeup and prosthetics. So
Right.
I would much rather see kills with a prosthetic bottom half of your face than a CGI tongue. I would much rather see that. So yeah, absolutely. Thank you for showing that on screen. Thank you for not blurring away. Like the next kill. Let's talk about this next kill, man.
Yeah, I could feel it.
I think unanimously every time someone watched it, everyone, the people, I watched it with my fiance and my buddy like the second time around, and they both were like, oh, and I knew it was coming. I was like,
that was me in the theater. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, so this kill, man, it's the scene in the junkyard where he's finally getting revenge on the band bullies, and he does some good kills in this scene, man. This is when he has the mask. He's finally hunting them down. He gets 3 of the band kids by like running one of them over on a fence. The other one, like he stabbed through the eye, and the third one, I think he beat with a wrench. But the last one, man, the main guy, the main bully who's been giving him a hard time, finally got his just desserts. And what did he do, man?
earlier on in the film, we see that Corey works at a junkyard and kind of like an auto repair shop or whatever. And there's this foreshadowing where he's, got this thing where, and I am by no means a mechanic or anything like that, but he's got like this blowtorch. I don't know if he's using it for welding or if he's using it for whatever, but he's got this like little blowtorch thing, and he's using it earlier on in the movie. Well, in this part, they show it off. They don't show it off screen. It's kind of blurred. You can see it, but you can't see it. I think it actually works better. People were mad that it wasn't on screen. I think it works better off screen because you can imagine like how he looked after this happened. He takes that blowtorch and puts it right in that kid's mouth and just fucking lights his whole mouth like on fire. And that girl was like underneath the fence just looking at it. And I love the part where like before that he's like trying to get her out. And he's like, she's dead. And then she's like, you're dead. He's like, what? And he turns around and gets him.
Now, look, man, I've seen a lot of kills on screen, right? Halloween Kills had 30 kills on screen, right? I've seen all the Saw movies 2-3 times over. I've seen all the Friday. I've seen a couple Friday the 13th. I haven't seen them all, dude. I've seen some nasty stuff, man. I've seen some bad stuff. I've seen RoboCop when I was way too young to see RoboCop.
Oh yeah.
I've seen Predator. I've seen them all, man. So I don't remember the last time I saw a blowtorch to the mouth. I don't remember the last time I saw that. And more importantly, I don't remember the last time a kill had such amazing sound design that I felt it in my ears. We watched it in the IMAX, and we feel like when he cranks up the heat, because in the beginning of the movie, he only cranks up the blowtorch once. But in this one, he cranks up like 3 times to make it like piercing. You feel the base of the heat, rattling. If you're watching this on good sound system. And man, his whole mouth just lights up bright orange. But the second time around, man, when I was watching on a sound bar in my living room, dude, did you notice what was happening inside his mouth?
No.
So because you can't see it because it's blurred out, they really rely on sound design. You can hear his teeth exploding from the heat. I was like, that sounds like popcorn in your mouth, dude. I had to look it up. His teeth were exploding from the heat. Dude, the sound design, man, I got to give it big props with that. That was amazing. I felt that every time I watched it. I was like, yeah, dude, this guy's threatening.
Dude, like, it's not Michael, but at the same time, like, you kind of get on board with it. Like, holy shit, dude, this kid's crazy. Like, that was a great kill. 2 great kills. And then we get a throwback to a kill in 2018, which I love, the good old head stomp. I love it. He stomps that girl's head. I think that's great. And it's funny because me and you both like that image, or it's in the trailer or it's a still shot where it's right before that kill happens, where it's the look up of Michael and you're kind of looking down. Who would have thought that scene actually wouldn't have been him? Crazy.
When I watched the trailer and I saw that scene, I was like, is the CGI off? Because he looks a little smaller than I remember.
Yeah. I got very like Halloween 2 vibes with Corey wearing the mask, because this Michael James Hugh Courtney is, he's bigger. This Michael, he's like smaller and skinnier. And it kind of gave me, I like the way that I don't know if they used a stunt coordinator to actually wear the stuff, or if it was actually him walking around in it. I don't know, but I think they did a good job of pulling it off.
Yeah, they did a good job of establishing him as working at a junkyard. That's why in one of the first scenes you see him in the blue jumpsuit, and when he was finally wearing the mask, it fit well. It fit well in his collar. You could tell he was a man of noticeably smaller stature than James Jude Courtney, but the costume fit him. It didn't feel like Jamie at the end of Halloween 4 wearing a clown costume that's too big. You know what I mean? So it fit well, and it really worked, man. So props to that. Props to them for hiding it so well in the trailers,
man. And rest in peace to the stepdad, man. I really like that guy. I hate that he got killed.
Let me talk about a stepdad, right? So this stepdad, this jolly stepdad with a mustache, is hands down the most adorable character in the Halloween franchise after Jamie, right? This man, every time he was on screen, I said, say more things. Say more things. You gave me the warm fuzzies, man. What a good dude, man. And he was the only one that cut Corey some slack. He knew he was bad on his luck. He gave him a gift. He gave him a job. When his mom was ripping on him, he was like, I got you, buddy. Like, he felt really good, man. And you really rooted for him. He's a cat lover. He worked at home, worked at his office watching action movies. Like, what an adorable dude, man. And I'm glad Corey didn't kill him.
Correct.
Because that seems like something that Michael would have done. But I'm glad Corey didn't kill him. And I'm glad that the way he died was defending Corey. He stood up to take a bullet for Corey. He got shot in the head, of course.
Yeah.
What a guy, man. What a good character. What a good source of positivity and love in this very dreary, very pessimistic story.
I saw because in the movie, whenever the mom and the mom's a psycho in this film. It's not really explained why, unless I'm missing something. She just is over possessive, crazy. I don't know. There's this one scene where she smacks him when she walks away, and then he looks at the stepdad looks at Corey. He's like, "I hope you find love." And then someone posted that in the Halloween subreddit. They were like, "To all the people that don't like this movie, I hope you find love." I thought it was so funny.
It is, yeah, dude. I love it. It was very lovable, man. But yeah, Corey, he kills bullies. He gets his revenge. Finally makes it to Laurie's house. And let's talk about the sequence where Laurie calls in to the police and that whole reveal. I'm not gonna lie, it kind of had me tricked, man. I was like, there's no way, because Laurie calls the police. She goes, I'd like to report a suicide. And she's walking up the stairs with a bottle of scotch or whatever. And even though earlier in the movie, just another one of those things that the writers put in that comes back at the end, they put in that she was sober and she wasn't drinking anymore. And to show her walking up the stairs with a bottle, it made it way more impactful, because you knew that she was sober. So she, she's sitting down there. She's like, I'd like to report a suicide. She has the gun and all that. She hides behind the door. For a second there, I was like, they're not going to do that, because they showed 2 scenes earlier, her writing her book where she was like, it's your choice, cherry blossoms or suicide. So they plant these seeds in the first half of the movie that come back in the second half of the movie. They do it so much and they do it so well that it really feels conclusive. So I'm not going to say it had me convinced that Laura was going to commit suicide, because I didn't think she would. But I don't know. That was a nice way to flip the switch of badassery for Laurie.
Yeah, that they had me, man. I'm not gonna lie. They had me going. I was like, oh shit, and I remember there was, because in the first trailer they show that scene. Obviously they don't show all of that, but they show the part where he walks up there and opens the door, and I was like, oh damn, are they really? They're gonna go this route? Wow. They had me. They didn't have me fully, but they definitely had me on the ropes. And I was like, oh shit, this is getting dark. And then you see the pumpkin splatter. And after that, I was like, oh, that was so cool. And then he opens the door and she's like, do you really think I killed myself? And then shoots him. I'm like, yes, yeah, I love it.
Yeah, it was nice, man. And Corey falls down. She goes down the stairs. Now another
quick question for you. I don't know if you can explain it. How did she know that he was going to do that and going to be there right at that time? Do you have a reason for that? Or just I don't know. It's a very accurate thing to know.
I don't think it was shown on screen, but I'm sure she got a whiff of it because she was downstairs. She was downstairs and she was kind of just patrolling the house, calling Allison. So I'm sure she got a whiff of it. And from knowing Michael's strategies and knowing that Corey's such an amateur with it, I'm sure she was like, someone's here. And maybe part of her thought it was Michael, but her fight or flight kicked in right away. She probably heard the door open in the background and pretended she didn't hear it, but it was off screen. But
yeah,
this trilogy has done such a good job at establishing Laurie as this strategist and this tactical survivor that I absolutely believe that she knew he was in the house before he did. So yeah, she's never oblivious at any moment. I believe that Laurie Strode has that tactical awareness, so I'll take it.
Because is that before that scene, is that the one where they're at the radio tower and she's watching him in the truck and he can see her? They don't show it on screen, but he's looking in that direction and she can see that he's looking at her in the truck. And
Yeah,
then she goes back home, and then I think she knows, like, I could be wrong.
That wasn't immediately before. That was way before. That was back when Willie the Kid came out and started bullying him. Was like, "Oh, you ugly motherfucker," and he was ugly. He was bullying them, and
yeah,
and they were hanging out on the roof, and Lori was watching them in the truck, and Corey very clearly saw Lori watching them. A couple scenes go by. You have the scene where Corey's in Jeremy Allen's house, abandoned house, sleeping, and Lori's in there. She's like, "Stay away from Allison. She's not equipped for this relationship." They have that whole discussion between the radio tower and the final showdown.
That's a good point. I'm sorry. I have a couple more things before we jump into that ending. That when I saw that the first time when they were in the house together and he's sleeping right where the accident happened and she's in there. I don't know if it was the sound editing, like you mentioned earlier, with some of the talking being off with the lips. I couldn't tell. The second time I watched it, I was pretty sure that scene actually happened. But when I saw it in the theaters, maybe it was just the editing. It kind of felt like it was a dream to me, or did it not happen? I was a little confused by that. I don't know if you had the same thought process.
So on the surface, the audio editing with the dialogue was a little choppy. And that's why it feels like some lines aren't and we know how to make lines blend together like they sound like one take. So it was very choppy. That's why it didn't sound like one continuous take. But one of my points I didn't get to yet was because they had to disguise so much of this plot in the trailers, there was a lot of dialogue that was shot exclusively for the trailers that wasn't in the movie. Like there was a scene in the trailer where Corey was sitting on those stairs and he was like, "What are you going to do when Michael comes back for you?" Because he is coming. So somewhere in that exchange in the house, that line happened, but obviously it didn't make it to the final cut. It was only for the trailers, just for the misdirect. So, sorry, I just heard. What is this? But yeah, no, there was a lot that was cut and a lot that was shot only for the trailer. So I wouldn't be surprised if they just spliced that section that I just said out and then glued the two ends together in not a very good room tone transition way. So yeah, it is editing, but there was a lot more that was shot that wasn't shown in the movie.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be a must-own Blu-ray for people because there's going to be so much deleted scenes and shit like this. I would imagine there would be. There's, usually you buy a movie, there's a couple scenes, but it doesn't really mean anything. This one, if they include all the stuff they originally had, dude, this thing is going to have some stuff that will make you be like, wow.
Yeah, I would very much like to see a 3 hours director's cut of this. For sure. Whether or not that includes the original idea of Michael dying at the beginning, I don't know. But I would very much like to see that because if there's a director's cut available of something, usually that's the version you want to watch.
Correct.
But yeah, so that's why the editings was a little off. In the theater, I thought it was a dream. I thought he was dreaming that because Laurie just kind of Batman's out the window and disappears, So I don't know. Maybe it was a dream. Who knows?
I thought the same thing. The second time watching it, I got the sense that it was real. And I kind of put it to where she kind of like Batman's disappears out of there. I kind of put that to like a Michael-esque move. Sometimes you turn around, Michael's there, you turn around, he's gone. So maybe it was a little something like that. And then two other things I kind of wanted to mention before we get to that final finale and talk about the ending. This movie really harps on the people of Haddonfield. I mean, at the beginning of the movie, Laurie's doing the dialogue where she's, reading out her memoirs. We see there's people getting killed. There's people committing suicide. The character, which by the way, I don't know if you caught this. Someone told me this. I saw that the lady that hung herself.
Oscar's mom.
Yes, that's Oscar's mom. I didn't know that the first time. Yeah. That's Oscar's mom. That's a nice one. and everyone in the town, they're getting better, but they're still pissed because they're Michael disappeared. So all this thing happened with Corey. They're like, well, we got to have something to complain about. So they complain about him. And then we get Sandra, the lady who got stabbed in the neck with the fluorescent bulb. She's alive. She can't talk because, she's wheelchair bound and she's got big slash on her throat. We get the scene where her sister or whoever is like confronting Lori outside. We get a lot of the scenes where people are like, this is your fault. You provoked this. People have their own theories. And I love that. People are like, Michael Myers was just a man who's had mental problems and you provoked him. Or he was a man who was just fine. And then you provoked him and you brought him back. Like people have their own theories and conspiracies. And it kind of reminds me of like a good old like hometown story that you have where like every neighborhood has their own rendition of what really happened, but no one really knows.
Yeah, yeah. This movie did a really good job of very subtly showing you that Haddonfield is a living, breathing town that has grown since Halloween Kills. They didn't have to spend a whole movie chanting "Evil dies tonight" to tell us that the people are affected. That all the characters who were brought back and established in Halloween Kills that died, obviously they died, but like the background, the neighbors, the community, like this is a town that's affected by this. And maybe they aren't as affected by 1978 as they are affected by 4 years prior when 30 people were killed. Maybe if you include 2018, and maybe there's like 45 people that were killed, so that's a huge deal now. So yeah, it makes sense that the town would be affected by this and everyone would be on edge and everyone would be, killing themselves and blaming other people. I partly grew up in a town that was small as I imagine Haddonfield is. I spent a lot of my childhood in a town that was population of like 2,000 maybe. I could tell you that small town feeling is real, man. And if you think that every character knowing who Laurie Strode is, or every character knowing who Allison is, or every character knowing who Corey is, just by seeing their face is unbelievable. Dude, that's believable, especially when you're talking about a murder of 40, 45 people 4 years prior, like people know that stuff. And the movie tells you that there was a trial for the Corey case. So obviously some people know about this and he got off for, accidentally killing the kids. So Haddonfield being on edge and blaming each other, basically like ripping each other's throats out over Michael, that's believable, man. And that's pretty smart. There's no way the town's going to recover from that. I was surprised by the light bulb lady coming back. I don't really know why they did that, but it's okay. It was believable. And this, I think everybody knows everybody and everybody's in your business. That really gives you the idea that Haddonfield's a small, tight-knit community, man, that looks out for each other.
Yeah, and I thought they did a really good job of that, and I liked having some of that. People say, "Oh, it's a small town," all this stuff happens. Like, yeah, okay, but like they actually show you. I like this Haddonfield more than I like the one from Halloween Kills.
Yeah,
Much better. And then so we see some of that, and then I wanted to talk about Michael just one more time before we go into this. We talked on it a little bit in the beginning, but we kind of got into some other stuff. Let's talk about the scene where they're Michael, or excuse me, Corey and Allison are kind of like in that restaurant, or they're hanging out, and then that old cop comes up and he's like, "Hey, Allison, we used to see each other. You said you're gonna call me, you didn't call me, and like, hey, what's going on?" And he's just like a weird, like pervy guy. And then Corey like snaps and he's like, he said we're good, and like he gets in his face, and like they're like, "Oh shit, like that's that kid that killed this little kid. Like, we don't want to mess with this guy. Like he's crazy." And like he kind of backs up, and then he's like, I'm gonna go after that kid. So we get this scene, and Corey's riding on his bike. He's out, and the cops chasing him after he drops Allison off, and Corey lures him to the sewer, and he kind of runs. Before he runs in there, he kind of like he throws something over his head and tries to strangle him, and he hits him, but he intentionally lets the cop know that
he's there.
Hey, follow me into the sewer. So he runs in there, and we kind of know what's going to go down, but we don't know how it's going to happen. He's in there, he's looking, cops looking with his flashlight. Dude, that scene where I saw it the first time in the theater, and I wanted to like tell you, but I didn't know if you saw it or not.
I didn't see it the first time.
Oh my God. I loved it. and he puts the flashlight like over Michael, but he's kind of hidden in a way. Like it's so cool how they did that in the shadows. Like there's a lot of stuff that they do in this movie in the shadows, but that scene right there, I love that.
Yeah, that was clever. There's another scene where Corey's obscured in shadows. Did you catch that?
Is it the one at the doctor's house?
Yep, at the doctor's
Yep.
house when he's killing the doctor, and
In
you
the
see the motion.
background.
It's another one I only saw the second time around. So, the cop, very believable that some 40-something-year-old man would be grossly
Yeah.
addicted to stalking this 20-something-year-old girl that he should never have been in a relationship with. Do you know who that cop was?
Who?
Didn't catch it the first time, didn't catch it the second time. He crawls in the sewer. He says, "You don't fuck with Doug Mulaney."
Oh, it was the parent of those kids, or was it?
I think it was the kid
Oh
himself.
no, it was the kid. Yeah, because
Yeah.
that's right. It was the flashback.
The redhead kid from Lonnie's flashback in Halloween Kills, where he was like, "You don't fuck with the Mulaney's."
That's
That
right.
Kid, that kid
That's
grew up
right.
to be that cop naturally, and got his just desserts, man. So, yeah, that
That's
was
cool.
nice. Yeah, it was nice. There are some seeds that were planted in Kills that came to fruition here, like the doctor. You know who the doctor was, right?
Yes, it was the I do know this. It was the doctor of the couple that was the black couple that was in Halloween Kills, where she is like, you need to talk to Dr. Mathis about this. You're being mistreated. So we kind of
Yeah.
already know he's a shitty doctor, and then we see that happen.
Yeah, yeah. So pretty much every character who's introduced in this trilogy, it comes full circle, and their arc is closed. The only name who we didn't see get closed is Ben Tramers, but it's all good. It's all good. No Ben Tramer. We got Dr. Mathis, but we didn't get Ben Tramer.
How did we get a whole trilogy? That's my one complaint. How do we get a whole new trilogy of Halloween movies and not? I mean, at least they mentioned them, but not one on screen look at Ben Tramer. Like,
watch it just end up like being like Brad Pitt or Tom Cruise or somebody. It's like, "Hey, Lori, how's it going?"
that's frustrating. It is cool to have that Nick Castle cameo too.
Yep, Nick Castle showing his face. That's pretty cool.
Yep.
But yeah, man, they stayed consistent with the world that they built,
They did.
and the names that they stayed with. So I felt like it was the same Haddonfield in all three movies, and that's important. That sounds redundant, but it's important.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just to finish up that scene. So we have the scene where they're in there and he kind of sees him, and then I love it when he turns around and he sees Corey, and Corey just has that look on his face. And he's like he knows like he's got Michael. So it kind of brings into the question that a lot of people have, gotten fired up about, like people saying, "Oh, Michael Myers doesn't need a sidekick. Like he doesn't, like he's Batman. He doesn't need Robin." Like I didn't get the sense that they were like sidekicks. I just kind of got the sense that this kid like snapped, and he kind of brought Michael, like showed him like, hey, like I can give you these free kills, which Michael at this point he needs, so he will take them. But I didn't take it as like this Corey's a new thing and Michael's just following him around. Like I took it as he was giving him easy kills and giving him a way to kind of get back into the swing of things. And Michael just kind of took it and was like, yeah, sure, why not?
Yeah, that was one of those ambiguous things that I'm glad they didn't give us a concrete yes or no on anything with, because my idea, and I think a lot of people's ideas were that Corey was going to bring him, fresh meat, and he kills enough to get his strength back and do what Corey needs him to do. I think that was what was expected. And I think because it was so expected, they didn't do it. Then you have the idea that Michael and Corey are, like you said, Batman and Robin working together to achieve the same goal. It might look like that sometimes, especially with the doctor's house, but I don't think that's the case. I think Michael's too smart for that. I think Michael was using Corey to get where he needs to go, because let's face it, when has Michael come across anybody who wasn't trying to run from or kill him? This is the first time he's ever encountered another person who was like, teach me,
Yeah.
So Michael was like, all right, let's try it your way. I'm getting a little old and weak. Maybe this is maybe this could work in my favor. So I think Michael was using Corey um, either to gain his strength back or to reestablish his name or maybe even to lead him to Lori. Who knows? You know, that's just another one of those mysteries that doesn't have a solid answer because you want to think about it, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm glad it wasn't answered, although it would have made sense that Corey was bringing him the kills to gain his strength back. I think that would have confirmed too much that it was a supernatural thing and it wouldn't be as, you know, a gray area as it is. So it's just another one of those things that I have to be okay that there's no answer.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way of looking at it. I think some people are like, that's his sidekick and they're tag teaming together. I'm like, I mean, you could look at it that way, but
dude, think with more than just your eyes, man.
yeah, you got to think about it just a little bit more, I think. So I enjoy that. And then, you know, seeing Michael like kind of getting thrown on the ground and kind of like having trouble getting up, it's a very like jarring experience to see. And
Yeah.
it didn't, but that's the thing, it didn't like happen in the way that like it pissed me off. I was like, I can't believe they're doing this. Like, if you think about it, when this whole trilogy started, a lot of people's concern were, okay, Michael's going to be like 60 years old. How's he going to get around? And in the first two movies, he gets around just fine.
Yeah.
He's
in better shape than I am.
In this movie, they actually take the idea of him being old and using it in the story. And to me, it worked because it's like, because there was this time when before Freddy vs. Jason came out, there was a billion scripts that went around. But to me, this one idea kind of stuck out to me. They didn't go with it. There was this idea that in the beginning of Freddy vs. Jason, they were going to have Freddy like be this old, decrepit guy that no one was scared of anymore. And he was like homeless on the streets and people like beat him up and they didn't care about him because he wasn't scary. He would try to get kids' souls and kill them, but no one was scared of him, so he couldn't feed on their fear. And to me, that always was an interesting idea. Like, you know, you see these guys are like super powerful, but imagine seeing them like at the lowest of low and like being nothing. That kind of was interesting to me. So to see Michael like kind of get beat up and pushed to the ground and like struggle to get up, it was like a very jarring experience, but it was a interesting way to look at the character. And I think that to me, it worked because it's something you've never seen before. You've never seen that.
Yeah, and my headphones just went out a little bit. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So it's funny that you bring up Freddy versus Jason because I forgot to mention this 5 minutes ago. That idea of Freddy being old and decrepit and no one's scared of him anymore, so he doesn't have any strength. That played a role in the final cut of Freddy versus Jason. Not in the extent that you just explained, but basically, if I remember correctly, no one's scared of Freddy anymore, so he needs to bring back Jason Voorhees to do some kills in the real world and take the credit for it so he can gain his strength back and start haunting dreams again. That's how it played out. That's kind of what I was thinking was going to happen with Michael and Corey. Michael was going to use Corey to reestablish his name and feed off the fear. That's kind of what I was thinking. But again, I'm glad I didn't go that route with that because it's just a little too expected, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so the whole Batman and Robin thing, I get it, especially in the doctor's house where they're working together. But dude, how do you know that Michael's not just following Corey? How do you know that Corey's not just following Michael? It's never established that they're working together. They're just, Michael's not killing you yet, you know? So I don't know. The whole sidekick thing, it's just another easy joke that I think people are trying to make. And it just doesn't really stick the landing there. Because obviously, as we see in the finale, Lori has Corey down on the floor, getting ready to kill him. She's like, "Come on, you came here to kill me, just do it." And he makes the shocking decision that threw me off, where he said, "If I can't have her, no one will." Dude tries to kill himself, stabs himself in the throat. Didn't see that coming. Honestly, didn't see that coming.
I didn't either. And people were like, why would they spend all this time building him up to kill him off? I'm like, have you never seen a horror movie? They build people up and kill them off all the time.
Right. Like, And it goes back to what I just said about Michael following Corey and Michael using Corey, because yeah, Corey killed himself off, but because Corey got to his destination, Michael trailed him, dude, and Michael followed him to Lori's house. So that's how they brought Lori together. And this is another one of those. Well, before I say that, I'm going to say this about Corey killing himself. I was shocked they did that because I expected Corey to be like the new face of Halloween for the next 2-3 movies. I expected them to do like a new trilogy of Halloween movies with Corey as the main guy. Like Corey got away and his trail of blood, where'd he go? Like I expected them to do that. So, but back to what I was saying, this is another one of those smart things that they did with Michael following Corey to the house, because the whole thing in 2018 was Lori's obsessed with the idea that the boogeyman's coming back to get her and her alone. Didn't know that it was Dr. Sartain that brought them together. Halloween Kills, she comes to the revelation, she's like, he's here to get me. He's coming to the hospital to get me. And everyone was like, no, dude, he doesn't care about you. Like, it was the doctor that brought you guys together. Lori goes, oh, okay, I can let this go then. And starts living in peace. Boom, Michael's back with no motivation to get Lori personally, other than he was brought together by mere coincidence by this third party. So it keeps that ambiguous mystery of, well, if they're not brother and sister, and if it's not a revenge story, why is Michael going after Lori? Michael's not going after Lori. He just ended up in Lori's house. It's I'm trying to find the right words to get it, but it's intentional. It's supposed to be that way because you have that 50-50. Well, if I look at it this way, Michael's after Lori. But if I look at it this way, it's pure coincidence that they're together, So that mystery, man, David Gordon Green, Danny McBride, the whole writing team, they treaded on that fence straight down the middle so well. And they didn't give us solid yeses or nos to anything because they want us to have these conversations. And that's why I think this movie is so smart and smarter than people are giving it credit for, even despite its obvious pitfalls. Like this is about as good writing we're going to get in a Halloween movie. Let's face it, man.
Yeah, I agree. They did a really solid job, going between the lines of, is this happening? Is it not happening? Is it supernatural? Is it not? Or is he really going after her? Is it not? I mean, they did a really good job of that. Yeah. And like we were saying, he ends up stabbing himself in the neck, and Lori's like, shit, like, I can't believe you did this. And then she pulls the knife out, and when she does that, Allison walks in, and we know from previously watching the movie that she's very against them two being together because she sees the same thing in his eyes that she saw in Michael's eyes. So it looks like obviously she stabbed Corey, and she kind of freaks out, and Lori's like losing her mind. She's like, I can't believe like she thinks I did this. And then Allison just runs out the house and leaves. And Lori's like, I can't believe this. Like she just kind of sits on the floor and just kind of really doesn't know what to do. And at that moment, I knew what was going to happen, but I wanted to see how it was going to play out. And when Corey's on the ground and she's just sitting there, and you see that mask on the ground, you just see that hand go out and grab that thing off the ground. I immediately stood up and I put my hands up in the theater. I was like, yes.
Yeah, dude.
Yes.
He's back, man.
He's back.
He's here.
He's here. He said, listen, this is my mask. And he stands there and he kind of just choking Corey because Corey's like gives the last little second of being alive. And that scene where Michael's just looking at him and it just is like, damn, like you messed up, dude. Snaps his neck, and then Lori's like, oh shit, it's going down. This is that final battle we get, and it's them two, and they're going at it one last time.
Yep. So here we are, the finale, the climax, the epic scene, the highlight that everybody came here for and everybody left with. This is what everyone came for. Now, I'll say that I'm not going to give a play-by-play, but I will say that this fight scene, I think, is the most intense of the whole franchise. 2018 was damn good. Moving throughout the house like some kind of demented fun house. Right. That was awesome. But the hand-to-hand combat in a kitchen, the choreography, I felt it, man. It was awesome, awesome, awesome. There was some good action here. You know, you had to call back to the sewing needle.
Yep.
Brought that back. That was very obvious. An interesting thing that I saw. Did you hear the theory about the fingers in the garbage disposal?
No, I did not.
So this theory, and it's another one of those theories you don't know yes or no, one of those ambiguous things that just comes from smart writing. So we think that Michael's this emotionless killing machine who's not out for vengeance. But you remember in Halloween 2018, Laurie shot off 2 of his fingers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So is it a coincidence that in this kitchen battle, Michael is so determined to grab Laurie's hand and shove her fingers into the garbage disposal to chop her fingers off in revenge? Is it revenge? Is it just coincidence? We don't know. It's one of those ambiguous things, but someone was saying, you know, him trying to remove her fingers in the way that she removed his was him showing emotion and showing like eye for an eye. I was like, oh wow, like yeah, I know that's not confirmed, but I like to think that. That's awesome. That's really cool.
That's interesting. That is cool. I will have to look more into that. That's cool. I like that. And you know, you get this and Michael in this movie, I just think it's because he's older, and I think they did some nice attention to detail. You know, he breathes, you can hear the breathing without the mask. But in this movie, it's heavier than normal. It is way heavier than normal. And you can tell like he's older, he's old, he's tired. Like, I like the fact that they built that up, that yes, we understand he's this unstoppable force, but I like to think that, you know, he didn't kill for 40 years. He was just, you know, kind of just held up in captivity. He got on a high when he came out on that night 40 years ago, and he had all that pent up. He was able to go out and give it his all. And then he did that. And then at the end, he was like, I don't have anything left. Like, I'm so old. Like, he had one good last fight in him, which was Halloween 2018 and Halloween Kills, which happened on the same night. So he had one last go at it. And then in this film, he hasn't killed in a while, and he's old, he's tired. So I think the way they make that work together is phenomenal. I think people aren't looking at it like that. They're like, it's Michael Myers, he's supposed to be unstoppable. I'm like, yes, but they're adding a realistic take onto it that people say, oh, we like Michael when he's just a man. Well, in this way, they're making him like a mortal man.
Yeah, and you're talking about 40 years of built up adrenaline and rage and just desire. And then now you're talking about 4 years of built up adrenaline at the age of 65. So, you know, here's another thing too that I think a lot of people are overlooking intentionally. Yeah, he's old. And yeah, I don't like seeing him weak and frail and shaking his body any more than you do. But you have to think about this. This dude came out 40 years later in 2018 and made it through what is the most elaborate and specifically designed trap and fight that he could have ever faced. And this dude made it out of that, right? This dude got his ass handed to him by someone who had 40 years of prep time, right? And he still made it out okay. Because another theory is, she says, the more he kills, the more he transcends into something that's more than a man. So because of all those kills in 2018, he was able to survive such a beating in Laurie's house. And because of all the kills in Halloween Kills, he was able to survive basically death, right?
Correct.
So here you have him, hasn't really killed in 4 years. He's old, he's frail, he's shaking, he's getting overpowered by a 20-something-year-old. He's at the weakest point he's ever been. Note, he got overpowered by a 20-something-year-old, let alone Laurie Strode, who's been training for this night for 40 years, right? So obviously Michael's strength is way below Corey's, which is doubly below Laurie's. Michael has, I think, 3 kills in this movie: the police officer, the nurse at the doctor's house, and then Corey, right?
Yep. That's it.
He's only frail and shaking before his first one. And then he kills Doug Mulaney. You get that scene of him going,
Yeah.
like he's awake. You get him killing the nurse, and suddenly he's back on a rampage. He's out in the streets again. He kills Corey. He's ready to fight. So yeah, you have that aspect of him energizing through kills and transcending through kills in a supernatural way, but it's not dwelled upon in exposition, and that's why you overlook it. So finally, you take someone who is at the start of the movie noticeably weaker than Laurie Strode, have him do some kills just to get to the same level of strength as Laurie Strode, so that they have an even fight. And that's why people are so. That's why I don't get why people are so unhappy about Michael being weak in this movie. It's because the last two movies he was way up here.
Yeah.
Dude, he was way overpowered. So they had to start him out lower to build up to the same level, because they couldn't spend a whole movie knocking him down in strength. That doesn't make any sense. You have to build him up. So that's why they did that, man. It's another smart call with an ambiguous, hypothetical situation that you can dwell on. It's smart. It makes sense to me. I get it. You get it. Why are you guys not getting this, man? I don't understand.
I think it's one of those things that's just going to take time. Same thing with, well, I wouldn't say it's similar to Halloween 3 because at least Michael is in this film. But similar to the way in, Halloween 3, where it's going to take time for people to really like understand it and come to comfort it. Because I think, give it a couple months to a year, people will be like, shit, like we're not getting a new Halloween movie this year. Like, maybe I should watch Halloween Ends, just cause. And I think I think time will do this movie justice. So, and what you said there was perfectly about them being evenly matched, about him, he being here, now he's down here, now he's slowly trying to come up. I mean, it explains a lot. Yeah. So, they're fighting and it's an intense battle. And they do a really good job of that. And then you get the ending where, she kind of gets him in a position and she stabs his hand, and kind of stabs him to the island in the middle of the kitchen. It's just them two at this point, and she's kind of pinning him down. She stabbed him again with another knife. She throws the fridge down on his leg. It's kind of stuck down there. He's kind of stuck, and oh, she's kind of got the upper hand on him. And she pulls out a knife, and she's kind of looking at him, and then she kind of takes off his mask, and we see this like old decrepit man, and you're like, she's kind of got him. Like you're kind of waiting for him to jump out, and he does, and he kind of jumps out, grabs her, and she gets him back down and slits his throat in a very calm way, not like in H2O where she takes the axe and just whoosh. I mean, it's a very like slow, painful death. Like, I want you to feel this. And she does that, and he starts to kind of bleed out. Then she stabs him in the side, and he's bleeding out from his sides. And then we think she's got it. And then he kind of comes up and he grabs her, like his fingers are like split in half basically from the knife. And then Allison walks back in, and she kind of realizes what's going on, and she goes and they snap his arm and they break him, and then she slits his wrist, and Michael bleeds out, and he, for all intents and purposes, he's dead. And the police finally show up from the suicide call they got. Hawkins shows up, and they walk in, and they see Corey dead, and then they see Allison and Michael laying on the table, and Laurie's like, he's dead. And that's how Michael dies.
Yeah. And in that fight scene, what I think a lot of people are missing too is we got our concrete answer finally. This whole review, I've been talking about how we get no concrete, like definitive yes or no. Is he supernatural? Is he just a man? We don't have that. In the middle of this fight, we get that answer. You know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
In every other movie, 2018, yeah, they got him down in the basement, they light him on fire, and they escape. Okay. Halloween Kills, we saw that he got out of that behind a shutter. Halloween Kills, dude gets beaten and shot to death. And then couple shot changes later, he's up on his feet, slashing away. So there's this gap of what happened. How did he get a second wind in between frames? How did we get that? In this fight, we get our most definitive yes that he's a supernatural being that we've ever gotten before. And it's the scene where she has him down on the table and she stabs him in the heart.
Yep.
And if it was any other movie, it would have cut away to her going like, "Ah, I finally got him. Jump scare, he got up, right? Or something where it would change the shot and he would get up. So you could
Correct.
feel like there was a gap. There's no gap. They keep the camera on him, show him and give his last breath. And then he gets up from that in the same shot. So there you have it, the most definitive proof that he is a supernatural being ever shown on camera, because in the same camera roll, he dies and then immediately gets back up without any cuts. So, boom, there it is. That's good enough for me. When I saw him, when she stabbed him in the heart and he stopped breathing and the music stopped, I was like, oh, wow, she did it. And then when he got up, that was the only time in 13 movies where Michael Myers has done his famous sit up, and I was actually surprised. That's the only time, because every other time I was like, yeah, no shit, he's getting back up. Yep. That was the only time I was surprised he ever got back up. And the impact made it so good, man. Like it just worked. It was smart. I keep coming back to that word. I get it. It's smart. I see what you're doing. You're telling a story without using words. I get it, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. She does it execution style. Allison comes to the rescue right when you think that Laurie's got it. She's got it in the bag. Allison comes, breaks his arm over the table.
And by the way, real quick, that little scene whenever he comes up and grabs her and she's like, just do it. Like, I don't care. And they do that whole montage of all the movies and all the scenes. Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that. That got me going. I love that.
Yeah, that was pretty good. I'm usually not a fan of montages, but you earned it. You definitely earned it here, and you didn't overindulge yourself with it. So, you're like, do it. And then Allison comes to rescue and breaks the arm. She slits the wrist. Michael's daddy's bleeding out. Like, you see him bleed a lot. You're like, oh, okay, movie's done. They're going to do something really vague, and Michael's going to come back to life in 5 years. No, they finally do it. They finally do the double tap, man. What we've been saying for 13 reviews. No one makes sure the job is done. And finally, Allison was like, you ain't dead enough. So you get the funeral procession, man. What do you think about the funeral procession? I thought that was done really well.
This was another thing I just remember that I predicted correctly. I said, if they're going to kill him physically, he has to be blown into a million pieces.
Yep, he's got to be completely bodily dismembered.
Correct, which they do. I've heard people say that, I mean, obviously people don't like much about this movie, that if they don't like one thing, they're not going to like it all. But people said that it was a very unceremonious. They didn't like it. They thought it was disrespectful to the character. They thought that it wasn't realistic. I don't buy that, because like we said, in all the movies, he is never definitively like shown to be dead. In this movie, they finally do that. They strap him to the roof of the car, and finally the sheriff shows up, who has done absolutely nothing in any of the movies. Actually says a good line. One of the deputies like, this isn't how we do things. He goes, it is tonight. Boom. They strap him to the car. And I will say this, I will agree with some people. They just thought it was weird how all of a sudden all of Haddonfield just showed up. Like, are they all in like a group text like, hey, we got Michael Myers, we're getting ready to go dump him off. But I liked it. I did. I thought it was, I could see why people may have a gripe with it, but I did like the fact that, they built up this town as being, really messed up from what's happened. So it's only right that they're all there to see this happen. So they all gather, and you see Sandra, you see the Julian, the little kid that was getting babysitted in 2018. That was cool. You see him, and the whole town is, they're on the way there, and they take Michael Myers to the junkyard, which all this stuff happened earlier. And they're crowd surfing him. They're pushing his body up. I was like, dude, what if he came back alive and just like kills on everybody? And they put him in this dumpster thing where there's like this compact shredder thing at the bottom, and Laurie, she gets on there, she looks at him, and he's dead, pushes him off, they turn it on, they CGI his ass getting crumbled up, and he is physically dead. There is no coming back. in this timeline, at least.
Yeah. So if you're complaining about how it's unceremonious how he died, name a better way. I I I'll give you $5,000 right now if you can come up with a better, more concrete way to kill off Michael Myers in a way that he is 100% guaranteed to not come back. Even my buried in concrete theory from the other video, he could come back from that. So to have him put through a car shredder is not a route that I thought they were going to go. I thought they were going to do beheading like H2O. But this is like as concrete as it gets, man. Like I can't think of a better way because obviously burning doesn't work. Obviously guns don't work. Obviously electrocution to the balls doesn't work. So this is like the best way to do it. And the car shredder was foreshadowed in the first scene at the junkyard. Right, it just comes back from the beginning. It's beautiful, man. And the him in the shredder, the shot of him in the shredder getting all shredded up, that was a CGI. That was practical effects. That was
Really?
a full meaty mannequin, man. That was beautiful. That's why it was so good.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I thought that's good to know. I thought it was cool. I don't really know how else they could have done it.
Yeah.
People are like, oh, you could have just ended it after he died, after Hawkins walks in and sees him there and he's bleeding out. They could have just ended it there. And to me, I mean, yeah, that would have been a nice just end. But at the same time, that's not definitive.
It's not enough.
It's not enough because they could have taken his body to the morgue or whatever they were going to do. And then the next movie, oh, just kidding, he's not dead. No, you can't do that. You have to make this definitive.
Yeah.
And they did that. And to that, I give them credit because there's no coming back from that unless it's a different old man with crushed larynx who got thrown into a shredder. At that point, I will never watch any of these movies again. But that's not going to happen.
Yeah, we've seen this get undone in just about every sequel. I cannot for the life of me come up with a theory as to how this would get undone. There was no body swapping. He was obviously dead. This dude's shredded up. You can't stitch that back together. Corey's dead. Allison left the town. Lori it's hinted at that she's moving to Japan with Hawkins. It's done, man. This timeline's done. I believe it.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the ending scene, they show the shots just like they do in the first movie, show all the shots where all the action happened, but you hear Michael's breathing in the first one. At this one, you get all the shots where all the action happened, but it's very peaceful. And then that final shot, which you sent me that alternate ending, which I thought was really cool, by the way. We'll talk about that. People will say, you see Michael's mask sitting there and it's the end, and then they played Don't Fear the Reaper, which they play in the first film. Why would she keep the mask? Why wouldn't she throw it in the shredder? To me, like that, like I understand their point, but like, would you not want to, in a weird way, keep that as a memento?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like and not like make sure it gets in the hands of someone else. Like, I mean, yeah, you could have threw it in the shredder and just been done with it. You could have, but I kind of like the fact of keeping it. I kind of do.
Yeah, I like the fact for keeping it too. I wanted to talk about Don't Fear the Reaper in that scene. I can't for the life of me remember where I heard Don't Fear the Reaper in this franchise. I was trying to think of it and I couldn't place it. Where did Don't Fear the Reaper come in?
It's in the first movie when they're driving, when Annie and Laurie are driving to go babysit.
That's what it is. Okay. I
You'll
knew
hear it. And it's funny because Michael's in the background driving behind them. So it's like, Don't Fear the Reaper.
Yeah. Okay. I knew that was a callback, but I'll tell you this, when they played Don't Fear the Reaper, I immediately was a little let down because you know what I was expecting instead?
What?
Mr. Sandman.
I'm so glad they didn't do that.
Really? I thought they would. I thought that would have been nice.
I have done that so many times. They
really?
did it. No, I'm glad. I'm actually glad they didn't. I've heard that they did it in Halloween 2. They did it in H2O. I was okay with it. I was actually okay.
I don't know. I think that's a little more synonymous with Halloween than
I,
Grim
I
Reaper is.
I could, if they did it, I could see why, but I think I'm glad they didn't. I was like, I would have been kind of bummed personally.
Yeah, but here we are, man. Halloween Ends is done. This trilogy is done. This timeline is done. Michael Myers, as we know it, is done. Um, you know, now it's time to talk about what we always talk about at the end of these things. It's time to bust out the grading rubric, man.
Break
And
it out.
we got some weight on this, so I'm gonna let you go first. I gotta know your grade on this. Your final grade on this.
This, if you made it this far, obviously you know we like this movie.
Right.
Okay. We're not going to give it a shitty grade. To me, this movie is a solid B. I think it's a B. I do.
Wow.
I don't think that it's not an A. It's not an A plus. But to me, this is a very, very good story. A solid story. I like the characters in this movie. I won't say I like Michael in the movie, but I like the angle they go with him. I think it's different, something you've never seen before. And I think that merits something. The couple kills that we do get are fantastic. The score, we haven't talked about it, but guess what? It's just as good as any score in any of this film, the trilogy. I like Laurie a lot. This is my favorite version of Laurie Strode. I like Allison. This is my favorite version of her. This isn't my favorite version of Michael, but I like what they did with him. I like Corey's character. I like the callbacks. It feels like a different movie. I think this movie is a solid B for me. I do. I really enjoyed it, and I think that over time that it could go down. I could say maybe I don't like it as much, or it could go up. But I think for the most part, this is a solid movie. It's getting way more hate than it should. To me, this is a very solid B for me.
But what was your biggest number one gripe about this movie? Your personally biggest dislike about this movie?
My my biggest gripe is, I mean, it's very obvious. My biggest gripe is, it's not that I didn't mind not seeing a lot of Michael. I wish we would have seen just a little bit more of him, maybe kind of ramping up and killing, and maybe just a little bit. I know that that's why fans are mostly pissed. I like the fact they tried something different, but I would have liked to see maybe just a little more Michael. Just kind of getting his bearings back, getting his killing transcending a little bit more before he goes into the battle with Laurie. I would have liked to maybe see him do a more severe kill to Corey, because I think like, you stole my mask. Like, yeah, he snaps his neck. I would have went with the whole, like, pulled his head off, something nuts, just to be like, just to really kind of show people, I guess, some of the people that were on the fence about it, like, no, we are not friends. You stole my mask, and I'm gonna kill you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I would say obviously just more Michael in terms of him killing, but that doesn't take away from the fact that I like the way they portrayed him. I think it's very different. It takes getting used to. I'm still not used to it after watching it, but I like the risks they took there.
That's good. Yeah, that a solid B. If you asked me a week ago what I thought you were going to grade the last movie of this trilogy was, I'd say it's going to be a far cry from a B. Coming off Halloween Kills, I said there's no way this thing's going to get better than a D plus. But yeah, man, I was pleasantly surprised too. I was, the biggest testament I have to how I feel about this movie was not just that I was confused the first time seeing it, but that I was very excited to watch it again. I was so eager to watch it again. I was like, dude, I cannot wait to watch this again and like really analyze everything. Because dude, in case you haven't gotten by my really overthinking rants in these reviews, dude, I love overanalyzing the shit out of these movies, man. I really do, even when there's nothing to overanalyze. So you give me something to chew on like that mentally, I love it, man. I'm like a dog with a bone with that. I won't leave it alone. But I love that kind of stuff. I don't like the brainless violence like Halloween Kills and Rob Zombie, man. I want to sit here and throw crazy theories that don't ever come to fruition. I want to do that. So yeah, this movie gives me that. This is a smart movie, and I get it. I defended this movie enough. There are some gripes that I have with this movie that I had right off the bat. that I still have after my third viewing. First and foremost, obviously, the biggest one is, like I said in the theories video, a copycat killer story is a fantastic story for a Halloween movie. I'm kind of expecting a bigger show though for a finale to this kind of trilogy.
Yeah.
I would have saved, if it was me personally, I would have saved the copycat killer for the first movie in the next trilogy. I think that would have made more sense to open up with Corey Cunningham. Maybe plant the seed in this movie that he absorbed the evil, and then really have him be the copycat killer in the fourth movie, the beginning of the next trilogy. That's how I would have done it. I would have saved Corey for the next one. That's my biggest gripe. Is it felt more like a standalone spin-off movie than it did a finale. Yeah, I got the fight. Yeah, I got the close of the arcs, but I don't know. It amazingly, that felt shoehorned in a little bit. So that the frail Michael and the old man Michael, like, I explained the reasoning behind that, so that's not even a gripe with me.
Yeah.
There were some editing mistakes in this movie. They really rushed through the editing in a lot of spots. Like I said, a lot of scenes where there's dialogue happening and no mouths are moving. A little choppy, but I can look past that. Me personally, one of the things I was most excited about as a two-parter, one of the things I was hoping for the most, I was like, please, 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 that's all I want for Christmas is this to happen in the third movie. It was the motivation to be revealed and for him to speak. I know that 1 in 100 Michael Myers fans want him to speak. I'm that 1 in 100. That's fine. I'll die on that hill. I wanted him to say something. I would have loved that new touch, in any form or fashion. I would have loved that new, like, moment,
Yeah.
I didn't really get that with Michael. He kind of felt sidelined most of this. Obviously, we explained it, but I would have liked him to say something, or at the very least explain, like, this has been his motivation the whole time. He's looking for an heir to pass his evil on to, whatever. Part of me wants something, but I'm happy with nothing because it lets me come up with my own answers. So so those gripes. I said with 2018, I got to judge this trilogy more harshly because you've had so much time to get it right. There are some things you get wrong in this movie for sure, man. It's not perfect and it's not better than 2018. And let me just bring it back to my cardinal rules, man. 4 cardinal rules. I got to give it one more round. Rule number 1: don't show me the monster. This movie does a great job. Michael's the most concealed out of all these movies. Even Corey is moving in the shadows. I don't really get a good look at Corey in a mask, and obviously Michael, I don't get a good look at. They never show Michael's face, and this would have been the last chance to. They even don't show Michael's voice, and even though part of me wants that, they didn't do it. So you did a good job not showing me the monster. You moved from an F to a D. Don't rely on just jump scares. That's my second rule. I don't know if it's because I'm older, but this trilogy is not really scary to me. Or maybe it's because I'm not watching it for the scares like I would with It or Paranormal Activity or something, but I'm watching it for the story, for the world, for the lore, man. I want to analyze the characters and the drama. So I'm not going to say that this movie's scary. It does have some jump scares, but I think it does a good job of adding the suspenseful parts in scenes that aren't just jump scares, like Corey doing the kill in the shadows, and some of the really scary imagery in the fight scene and the practical effects. Like, part of what makes this movie unsettling, and the blowtorch wasn't a jump scare. Part of what makes this movie unsettling is the fact that they're not jump scares. So you win right there. Goes from a D to a C. Be scary at all times, not just when the threat is on screen. Now, here's a weird one that's specific to this movie. When you're dealing with Corey, his rampage is only aimed at those who have ever done him wrong. So if you've never bullied Corey Cunningham, you've got nothing to worry about. So I think if this movie spent even 1 second of him just like contemplating just murdering randos on the street, maybe he would have felt like more of a threat, but he was very direct and he was very vengeance sought. So I didn't feel like the town of Haddonfield was in danger. So I can't give you points there. Um, Pushing the boundaries. I don't want to say this has definitely pushed boundaries for the Halloween franchise for sure. But
Correct.
this hasn't done anything groundbreaking that hasn't been done before. I think the copycat killer route was done in Friday the 13th part 5 or 6. One of those Friday the 13th did a copycat killer. And then of course, like I said, Freddy versus Jason did the whole like sidekick, one's using the other kind of thing in a horror aspect. So I can't say you broke any boundaries there. So now you're in the C range for me. Personally, man, I like this movie a lot. I'm excited to watch it again. I'm excited to buy the Blu-ray. I'm excited that I finally have confirmation that Halloween Kills just doesn't matter. It's this is as good as I think I could have made it, and I don't have any notes that would have made it any better. Like I said, Michael Myers is almost impossible to write for, especially 3 times. So I give the credits to the writers, man. They did a phenomenal job. They knocked it out of the park. I get the gripes, but this is about as good as it's going to get. And you're already better than 8 other Halloween movies. So I'm going to give you a C plus on this. I gave 2018 a B plus. I gave Halloween 2007 a B minus. I gave H2O a C plus. So this is right tied, I think, for this is tied in the C plus range with H2O on how much I enjoy it. H2O has a leg up because of seniority, obviously, but no, man, this is a good Halloween movie for sure. And anyone who says otherwise, you can kind of tell when they just watch it for surface value.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with everything you said. And I I would I would I'm not gonna go back on my grade, but I would put this in the for me B to B minus, not B to B plus. Just because I do think, obviously the Mike stuff with Michael. The ending scene it's good, but I would have liked, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit more drawn out, maybe a little bit more build up. I like the way that it happened. Um, and then I I don't I get why they did this, but you say don't show me the monster, which they didn't show Michael a ton, but I kind of got irritated by how much they had to pull off his mask and show that he's an old man. Like I already am seeing it enough. There are a lot of shots in this movie where, like in the scene where Corey, kind of mugs him and takes his mask, he falls on the ground. He gets up, he turns around. He's got like an old dude, like mullet going on. He turns around. They take his mask off in the ending where they're killing him. You can kind of see not his face, but you see half of his face. I was like, okay, like I get it. I don't need to see him any more than that because I still want to keep the mystique a little bit. You've already made him a little, weaker. We don't want to go too far overboard.
Right.
So that was a little bit, of a knockoff for me as well. I just wanted to point that out. But overall, man, I mean, this movie is like a B minus to me. If you want to watch a Halloween movie and not get your standard typical thing that you see, this movie's for you. It's fun. It's different. It's got good characters. It's got an interesting story. If you're just a Halloween purist and you're in it for Michael Myers and kills, you're going to hate this movie. And, I understand that's what people like. And I like that too, to a certain extent. But
Yeah.
at the same time, I feel like you have to do something different. And this movie did something different. And I enjoyed it.
Yeah, man. I'm not going to say you're not a true Halloween fan if you don't like this movie. I'm not going to say that because there's 2 types of true Halloween fans. They're the ones who just want the horror, and there's the ones who just want the lore, and the brain food,
Right.
and both fan bases are right. It's just at this point, it's just a matter of which one's louder online, and that's a good testament to where we're at as a movie audience nowadays. But yeah, man, I think this is a good Halloween movie, and it feels like we've reached a milestone, man. Um, so now comes the big question: are you ready to rank your Halloween movies?
I am. I am,
Yeah.
and that's where we're going next. Our next video to kind of end this thing off is we're going to rank all these movies. Now, I haven't done my ranking yet. I'm getting ready to do it probably after this video. There's so many of these things. Good Lord. It's going to be tough. And I want to preface this before I get into this rankings. I feel like whatever grade I gave the movie might not necessarily reflect where it's ranked. I'm not saying like Halloween 6, I gave like a D minus. It's going to be number 1. I'm saying, don't be surprised if I gave a movie a C or a C plus, and it might be higher than something that I maybe gave like a B minus. That probably won't happen, but I'm just clarifying that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the grades that we gave in these reviews don't necessarily reflect rank placement. It gives you an idea, but dude, I'm way ahead of you, man. I already got my rankings on Letterboxd. I know my
Wow.
first one. I know my last one. I know my grades, and I know where ends falls in this list. So I'm very eager to make my claim.
Interesting. So yeah, that will be our next video. Thank you guys for sticking with us through this whole thing. I know we took a little bit of time to do this Halloween Ends review, but I think we wanted to get it right. We didn't want to jump in here after the first one. Want to watch it a couple times, really soak it in, kind of see what everyone's thinking, and just get it all out there, as opposed to just going to watch the movie and just being like, "Oh my God, can you believe this happened?"
Yeah, we took a lot of time on this. This is our longest review, 2 hours longer than the damn movie, because there's a lot to talk about. Now, look, unless your boyfriend or girlfriend or whoever drags you by the feet to the movie theater to watch this with them because they like Halloween, you don't care about it. Unless that was the case, you've got to watch this movie bare minimum twice. You've got to watch it at least twice. It's on Peacock. Get Peacock, go watch it, and then cancel your subscription, whatever. But you got to watch it twice before you can have a fair opinion, because this movie is going to blindside you so much that your first reaction right out the theater, I was hesitant to even say anything because I didn't want to say the wrong thing. You have to watch it twice if you're a Halloween fan, or even if you're just a fan of this trilogy. Watch it twice, man. Do yourself justice, because there's going to be things that you appreciate or dislike more second time around when you're not so caught off guard. So don't do yourself a disservice. Don't watch this only once.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. It's very different, and it's getting different opinions from everybody. And I've got some people that I've seen that say this is the movie they hate the most. I've seen people say, hey, this is one of the most fun Halloween movies I've ever seen. I really enjoyed it. So I definitely something that you're going to need for a second watch because of all the stuff that happens. There was numerous times after something happened in first time we saw it in theater, it's like, oh, dude, I got to go back and watch it because it just stuff happens so quick. I need to go back and see it. So, Halloween Ends. Our review series ends. Next, we're going to do the ranking of all the films, and that's going to finish that out. And then coming up after that, we've got a couple ideas. We're going to take a break from the franchise reviews because I think we're a little burnt out on that. Just do some straight up one-off reviews of some horror movies that we'll pick, some new stuff, some old stuff, just kind of do a little bit of that and close out the Halloween season in a good way.
Yeah, I think if you told me that we were jumping to another franchise like Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street next, right after this, I would probably just say you're out of your fucking mind, because I'm ready for some one-offs, man. I don't think I can make it through 13 more movies.
Listen, I told this to my fiance. I was like, look, I love after we got done with Halloween Ends, watching on Peacock, I was like, listen, I love Halloween as much as anybody. I genuinely don't want to touch these movies again until next Halloween.
For real, dude.
I don't. Like, I'm burnt. I'm burnt, dude.
I'm done, man. And I'm done till next October. Like, I like cheesecake, man, but if I have cheesecake 13 days in a row, I don't like it anymore. So I don't want to start hating cheesecake. You know what I mean?
Exactly. I'm done, and I want to put it away and keep it away until next October. So, thank you guys for tuning into every horror film or horrors forever. We will see you on the Halloween ranking series video. We will close out the franchise the best way we can.
The mummy has now been located.
The living mummy. The living mummy.
Bullets won't stop.
Some creature out of time.
It was horrible. It was horrible.
He's completely out of control.
I saw those bodies.
Is he a man or a monster?
You actually knew a werewolf in a peaceful town where nothing ever happened.
It was horrible. It was horrible.
In the mystical regions of Transylvania.